Welcome in for another edition of Bet. I'm your host, Anita Marks, on this Thursday night, and we've got another riveting game. Psych! We're going to break it down for you anyway. We've got a jam-packed show, a lot of guests. Let's get to it. Eric Moody is going to join me for the good word, as well as a little NBA discussion. We'll take you to Las Vegas. Tyler Fulghum will join me for some NBA football, college, as well as the NFL, and we'll touch base with both beat reporters for the Minnesota Vikings and the Buffalo Bills, waiting to hear what news we can find out. Of course, with Josh Allen, will he be active and attractive as we get ready for Sunday? But let's bring in Eric. Eric, welcome in. How you doing tonight?
No, I'm doing pretty good. If I were doing any better, I'd be a twin.
Ooh, I like that. Let's jump right into it. It is called the good word. I'm going to share with you a thought, an idea, a possible wager out there, and I want to hear what your good word is in reaction to that statement. So let's start first and foremost in college football. Michigan Wolverines plus 120 to make it to the college football playoffs. What's your good word?
I would say my good word is long shot. I'm just viewing Michigan as a long shot, to make the playoffs. And I think a lot of people, college fans have been waiting, for Ohio State, Michigan, see who wins the Big Ten, who gets to the playoffs, etc. We're only a few weeks away, but the Buckeyes are big favorites in this game for a reason. Now, Michigan can score points. I will give them that. But I think their defense is going to have a huge problem trying to contain, this high-octane Ohio State offense. And so Michigan will struggle, and I think they're a long shot. That's all I have to say about that.
So my word is hail, as in hail to the champions. That's right. Listen, who would have thought that three teams in front of them would have lost last week? I didn't. Of course, I'm talking about Tennessee, Alabama, of course, and Clemson. They destroyed Rutgers. I know you're going to be like, Anita, it's Rutgers, nothing to write home about, but still 57-17. They beat up on Penn State. I think they're going to destroy Nebraska and Illinois. So my Final Four, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU, because I do believe TCU beats Texas this week. So those are my Final Four. So hail to the champions. Go blue! Falcons. Let's talk some NFL. They will win both halves tonight against the Carolina Panthers. And you can bet that at plus 110. What say you?
Yeah, I do like that bet, but I would say my word when you went through that sentence was really identity. The Atlanta Falcons know who they are. They are a running team. You're not going to bring Marcus Mariota in as your starting quarterback if you're not going to lean on the run. They've got Tyler Algier, Cordero Patterson. Of course, they've got Caleb Huntley as well. But one thing about the Falcons, they rank third in rushing attempts per game this season. And plus, they're a top 5 rushing team in the league, so they know their identity. And they're looking on the other side of that field, and they're like, we've got the Carolina Panthers that are here. A team that over the last 2 weeks has given up 870 total yards, 79 points, and half of those yardage numbers that I mentioned were on the ground. I think 408 rushing yards over that time frame. We all remember or remember watching in awe, especially those that play fantasy football, Joe Mixon just going nuts on this team last week. And so the Falcons know that, hey, this is a weakness of the Panthers, and they're going to look to exploit that. And you also factor in the weather as well, where it's going to be rainy, windy conditions. Now, I know total yards per game, you look at Carolina, you look at Atlanta, they don't generate a ton of yards. And the Panthers actually rank 23rd in points per game. But you look at the Falcons, they do rank 9th in points per game scored this season. And when you combine all those factors, I do like the Falcons in this game to win both halves, to cover the spread, and I do like the under in this game as well. So I'll pass it over to you, Anita.
Yeah, my word is abso-freaking-lutely. Well, it's absolutely. I just added the freaking there for a number of reasons. And I'm sure you know this, Eric. The Carolina Panthers, 0 touchdowns this season in the first quarter games. 0. They have not scored a touchdown in the first quarter at all so far this season. They've had 50 offensive drives in the first half of games this season, and they've only scored 3 touchdowns in 50 offensive drives in the first. So this is a team that just, they do not get their engine revving for quite a while. Their opponents, by the way, have 113 more offensive snaps than they do. And keep in mind, there's a lot of transition going on. They fired some coaches. this past week, so I think we're going to see much of the same. So absolutely, I am all over Atlanta in the first quarter. I'm all over Atlanta in the first half. I've got them. I got them at -2.5. I know that's what the spread is right now. So we're lock and step here, all over Atlanta. Question number 3, Kevin Durant, 8-1 odds to be the regular season NBA scoring leader. What's your good word?
Necessity. Because you look at this Nets team, there's a lot of uncertainty with Kyrie Irving right now. I know he's serving a suspension, but who knows? You just never know off the court like what can happen with him. I'll say one constant that the Nets have, and that's Kevin Durant. He's been phenomenal so far this year. He's averaged 31 points per game while shooting 52% from the field. He's got a very high usage rate. And one thing about Durant, he's made history so far this season. He's had 12 games where he scored 25 or more points. He's only the second player to do this since Michael Jordan back in the 1988 to 1989 season. And you look at Jordan during that year, he won the scoring title that year. He also won the Most Valuable Player award. Now, I'm not saying that Kevin Durant's going to win the MVP, so let's not get that twisted. But he's a very capable scorer in this league, and the Nets, just given their situation, are going to have to lean on him quite heavily. So with those odds, Anita, I'd make that bet on Durant.
Yeah, my good word is net, as in all net, baby. Here's another thing, Eric. Who's scoring for them? Ben Simmons certainly isn't. Kyrie, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother show. In regards to when we'll see him again back on the hardwood for the Nets. And I came across that interesting stat as well in regard to Michael Jordan and how many, over 25-point games he had in the season. So listen, this Nets team, it's all about Kevin Durant. And also, I'm just going to throw this out here. There's some talk and some, speculation that maybe possibly a trade to the Lakers, right? To try to boost that Lakers team that's just god awful this season. I don't know. Could KD be traded? Maybe it's not the Lakers, but could he be traded at some point in time in the season? I would not be shocked if that did happen. Of course, we know he wanted to trade even before the season began. So this concludes our good word. Let's jump right into the NBA. And let's talk about this game tonight. We've got the Trailblazers going against the Pelicans. Now, word just about 30 minutes ago is that Damian Lillard is not going to play. Okay, some reports are caps, some reports are rust management, whatever the case. Now, the Trailblazers were getting 7, now they're getting 9 because Lillard is out. The over-under is 222. What's your play here? I'm intrigued.
Yeah, you know what? I'm disappointed because I was looking forward to watching Damian Lillard go up against CJ McCollum, longtime teammates, going head-to-head, but it was not meant to be. So I'll be up front, Anita. I am going to back the Pelicans here, and here's my rationale on this. So you look at this Pelicans team. They've gotten off to a really fast start this season. I like what I see out of this team. They rank 5th in offensive rating. They rank 16th in defensive rating. A very capable team. But you look at the Blazers. Obviously, Lillard will be out. They're also dealing with multiple injuries, the players in their front court, which in my opinion ultimately benefits the Pelicans. Furthermore, you look at the Blazers, they're tied for the most turnovers per game. And if they turn the ball over against this Pelicans team, New Orleans can get up very quickly on this team. So I think they'll play well enough to cover the spread in this game. Now, I know over the past 5 games they've struggled. I believe they're 1-4 against the spread over that time frame. Some losses to the Lakers, Hawks. So I think they bounce back here tonight, especially against a Trailblazers team, I would say, without Damian Lillard. So that's why I'm looking there. I also like Zion Williamson in this game as well. I can go through that prop, but I'll pass it back to you.
Listen, I talked about it on Daily Wager just a few minutes ago. I'm still on Portland. I do like Portland getting, especially now getting 9. No disrespect to Damian Lillard. I know that obviously he's the star of the show. But I feel like this Portland Trailblazers team, it's like they have an identity. They know what they're about, right? They're shooting 40% from three-pointer, from behind the arc. And meanwhile, in looking at this Pelican team, I think it's going to be a slow process for them to really kind of get to where I think they can get. But I think they're still searching for that identity. They live in the paint. And so if Portland can continue to hit those three-pointers, maybe it's not 40% tonight because Lillard's not there, but if it's anywhere like 35, 37%, and you've got a Pelicans team that is sitting in the paint, I think I'll take the points for sure. Eric, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really do appreciate it. Enjoy Thursday night football, by the way.
No, absolutely. You too. Until next time.
You got it. So we leave Eric. We go to Tyler Fulghum, of course, in Las Vegas. Tyler, you heard Eric and I talking about this Blazers-Pelicans game. How are you playing it tonight?
Well, I had a best bet, as you know, on Daily Wager about 45 minutes ago, and it was from this very game, Anita. When I heard Damian Lillard was out, I immediately go to Anthony Simons for daily fantasy and for overs as far as his scoring prop. 23.5 is the number. I'm going to go over that for Simons. When Lillard is out, Simons takes on the Lillard role. And Simons is a really good player. Can shoot the three, really athletic, can get to the rim as well. The Pelicans have one of the top offenses in the NBA, so they'll at least push the Blazers as long as they can keep it close to score a lot of points. I'm expecting Simons to shoot the ball anywhere from 20 to 25 times tonight, and if that's the case, I like his point prop to go over.
All right, let's go from the hardwood to the gridiron. Again, we've got another riveting Thursday night game with Atlanta going up against Carolina. Weather conditions are not supposed to be great, but not as horrible as we were expecting a little bit earlier on in the day. So as of right now, Atlanta is favored by 2.5. The over-under's at 41.5. Tyler, what's your play tonight?
Yeah, the play is to lean into that Thursday night trend, go under 41.5, and logically you're thinking, well, these are two offenses that really lack explosive playability. Atlanta's an efficient and functional offense, but they do a lot of their damage running the football. And that matches up against a Carolina defense that's really bad at stopping the run. On the other side, Carolina no longer has Christian McCaffrey. They have P.J. Walker starting at quarterback. He was benched last week against the Bengals. Does have DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall starting to emerge as a number 2 wide receiver. That goes up against an Atlanta defense that's one of the worst in the NFL against the pass. So I'm a little concerned that the weather is starting to lighten up a little bit relative to expectation, because these two defenses don't match up well with what the other team can try to do, especially Atlanta versus Carolina when Atlanta's on offense. So I'm a little scared now, but I will just trust the fact that it's P.J. Walker and Marcus Mariota, two quarterbacks that really struggle to create explosive plays. That keeps this game under 41.5. But if it goes over, Atlanta will run all over the Carolina Panthers, and Carolina might have some success through the air against Atlanta.
Okay, so sit back, relax. I'm playing this a multitude of ways. Let's take a look. I do like Atlanta. I'll lay the 2.5 in the game, but how about this? I like them in the first quarter. I like them in the first half. I also like their team total over, and here's why. Carolina, talked about it with Eric just a second ago. 0 touchdowns in the first quarter this season. Only 3 touchdowns in 50 drives, possession drives this year in the first half, and their opponents have had more than 110 offensive snaps than them. So, and as you just talked about matchup, I feel this is a beautiful matchup for Atlanta. Bad weather conditions, teams run the ball more. Carolina, we just saw what Joe Mixon and the Cincinnati Bengals were able to do against them. So I think with Marcus Mariota, the way that he rushes the ball, Patterson is back in action, Algier in the backfield, Huntley as well. I think they run all over Carolina. So I love Atlanta tonight. With that being said, you know I've got a plethora of prop bets coming, but let's hear yours first. What
I
prop
don't
bets
know
do you
if,
have tonight heading to the game?
I don't know if my menu is going to be as prolific or as robust as yours, Anita, but I'm going to lean into those matchups that we were talking about on offense and on defense. We'll start with when Carolina has the football. P.J. Walker over 25.5 passing attempts, especially now with the weather lightening slightly. This is the way for Carolina to attack Atlanta. Atlanta is dead last in yards passing allowed per game. Their top 2 cornerbacks are out. Carolina is an underdog. That's a negative game script that should, if this thing plays out with Atlanta building a lead, make them throw the football a little more. Just 25.5 pass attempts. I'll go over that with P.J. Walker. Hope he doesn't get benched in this game. And then leaning into that Atlanta run game, against the Carolina defense. This is likely how they build a lead in this game, Anita. CPAT gets fed the rock, and CPAT does some damage. Over 13.5 rushing attempts, over 57.5 rushing yards. I know you may have a touchdown prop with CPAT to share with the people, but bottom line is I think he has proven coming back last week that he is ready to be the bell cow again for this prolific Atlanta rushing attack, and I think he'll get fed and he'll have a lot of success against Carolina tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit on one of many. So, and as I said, I think Atlanta is going to run the ball all over Carolina tonight. So, yeah, I mean, Patterson, I'm going over rushing yards as well as scoring a touchdown. He had 2 last week, should have had 3. One was called back because of a penalty. And as I said, we saw what Mixon was able to do against them last week. Algier over rushing yards. I think he finds the end zone as well. Mariota over rushing yards. He's had 3 rushing touchdowns so far this season, and he has 13 red zone carries. So he could very well find the end zone tonight. And I like Terrence Marshall, wide receiver for Carolina. Atlanta's defense, they're going to be missing 2 of their starting corners, and he's got 15 targets his last 2 games. Atlanta's defense has given up 12 receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers this season. So I do like Marshall. I think Marshall's going to have a big game. I'm also going to use him in a lot of DFS, just FYI. So that's how Tyler and I are playing the Thursday night game. We've got some exciting college football coming your way on Saturday. Let's start first and foremost with Alabama coming off a disappointing overtime loss to LSU. And now Nick Saban gets to go up against Lane Kiffin. Oh, I can't wait to watch this. So Alabama is still favored here by 12. The over-under is at 64.5. What's your play in this matchup, Tyler?
You're going to play this game over. It's creeping up a little bit, so it looks like the market is kind of seeing what I'm seeing here. When we look at this matchup, Ole Miss at home, we know Lane Kiffin, his bread and butter, fast-paced, tempo offense. And since they are at home, more access to the playbook, even though it's not quite the same as it is in the NFL, being able to make those checks at the line of scrimmage, being able to communicate with your quarterback, with your offensive line from the sideline, and get yourself into the best play possible against an Alabama defense. Let's just face it, Anita, they're pretty average. I know Will Anderson is a dynamic talent, might be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, but Alabama's defense just isn't as dominant as we have been used to seeing in Nick Saban's tenure. So I think Ole Miss at home can put points on the board, and if that's the case, they will push and they will challenge Bryce Young, the defending Heisman Trophy winner, to put points on the board against an Ole Miss defense that is certainly not the strength of that team. So I'm going over 64.5.
Yeah, I love Ole Miss in this spot. Lane Kiffin came out this week and said that Nick Saban was the greatest of all time. I'm sure that got in his craw because I'm sure it was tongue-in-cheek. But more importantly for Alabama, this is just not your typical Alabama team this season. 78 penalties, for a head coach that's so strict like Nick Saban. It's just uncharacteristic of his squad. And we talked about it on Daily Wager earlier today, and that is, guys they commit. They agree to go to Alabama to win a national championship. How many times are guys on an Alabama squad, Tyler, coming in to play a game when they've already got 2 losses on the season and chances are no shot at all to play for a national championship? I think Nick Saban's going to have to do a hell of a coaching job to get these guys up and ready to play against Ole Miss. So I'm all over Ole Miss. I love them getting the points. Washington's going up against Oregon as well this week. Oregon's favored by 13. The over-under is at 72.5. What's your play?
Yeah, that is a massive number. I kind of lean to the under, but my official play was in my college triple option plays today on Daily Wager. I'm laying the points with Oregon. Oregon has been wildly surprising. They lose that season opener against Georgia 49-3. They've won every game since then. And Bo Nix, yes, Bo Nix, run out of Auburn, wasn't great there, has been really, really good with one of the most potent offenses in all of FBS. The big reason I'm willing to lay this rather large number is because Oregon's home field advantage is legit. Autzen Stadium, one of the best home field advantages in all of college football, not just the Pac-12. They are an awesome home team. They're undefeated, 4-0 ATS at home this season. Meanwhile, Washington, they have a pretty nice home field advantage. Well, guess what? This game ain't at Husky Stadium. It is at Autzen. On the road this season, the Huskies have failed to cover every single road game so far. I'm leaning into those trends. It is a big number. I just hope the Oregon Ducks win by 2 touchdowns because that home field advantage at altitude.
Yeah, you talk about Bo Nix. God bless the transfer portal, right?
Exactly.
Unbelievable. And their offense has just been like number 2 in yards per game, putting up over 500 yards. They're averaging 40 points a game. And, no disrespect to this Washington team, and you talked about how they struggled on the road. On paper, they look great, but I just see so many inconsistencies with them this season. So I'm with you. I'm all over Oregon. I'll lay the 13. Last but not least, this is my favorite game on the slate this week. I can't wait to see this one. I am wearing purple on Saturday, Tyler. TCU going against Texas. Texas is favored by 7, and the over-under is at 65. Are we on the same side here?
I'm on the total. I don't know if we're on the same side of this total, but I'm going to go under 65. I'm pretty sure, based on what I've heard you say, Anita, that you think kind of the wrong team is favored here, or that there's certainly tremendous value on TCU because they're undefeated catching a touchdown. I think what the market is trying to tell us here is that Texas can keep this game at least close. They're favored for crying out loud. And if that's the case, it may not play out to the normal TCU game scripts that we're used to. When you think TCU, you think a lot of points. You think a scoring bonanza. But of course, Texas has a very strong run game with Bijan Robinson. That could speed up the clock. And if they are to win this game, they can't let TCU score 40, 45 points, right? I don't know. It's the Big 12 maybe. They can win a 50-44 shootout. But I'm just going to go under here thinking that the market is trying to tell me how this game script is going to go with Texas favored by 7 at home. It's not going to play to the normal shootout that we see in the Big 12, especially when TCU is involved. Are we feeling the same way about this game?
I don't think so. First of all, as I said, I'm wearing purple on Saturday. I'm all about TCU. Give me the points as well, and I like the over here.
Okay.
This is a Texas defense I'm not sold on. I think TCU is going to run all over them, and on top of that, defensively, they're one of the worst teams in college football against explosive passing plays. So I think Garrett Riley, the offensive coordinator, is going to be like, pick your poison. I think whatever he's going to want to do against this Texas defense, I think he's going to be able to accomplish. So I know this is going to be their biggest road test yet, but I believe in TCU. And there's so much on the line, obviously, to stay in the top 4 as well as winning the Big 12. So I like TCU, and I like the over. Tyler, this is where we say hasta la vista, baby. Enjoy the Thursday night game in Las Vegas.
I'll be back.
All right. We've got a big game happening this week in the NFL, right? It's the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills might not have Josh Allen. Let's touch in, of course, with Kevin Seifert with the Minnesota Vikings first and foremost. We're going to take you to Buffalo as well. But Kevin, let's first talk about, how about Dalvin Cook, right? Let's focus on him. The Bills, their rushing defense was excellent the first 7 weeks of the season, but has allowed 191 rushing yards in their last 2 games. So how much do you feel that this running game is going to play a big role in the Vikings game plan on Sunday against the Bills?
Oh, I think they want to run it a lot if they can. Some of it will depend on whether the game is close or not. But as long as it is, they've done that all season. And Dalvin Cook is averaging, I believe it's 16 carries a game. He's had 20 carries 3 different games. And really the only game he hasn't had a lot of carries in is when they fell behind really early in week 2 to the Eagles. And I think he had 6 carries in that game. And so whenever they've been close in a game, they've used him a fair bit, him and Alexander Madison, the backup. Kevin O'Connell has said this week that it's still very important to him to marry the run and the pass. A couple weeks ago during their bye, they spent a long time pulling apart their running game and putting it back together, and there's been a lot of advancement in those few weeks since then. So as much as they are sort of a pass-first offense with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and now T.J. Hawkinson, I think they very much value the running game, and they've given Dalvin Cook carries in almost every game this season.
Yeah, you talk about the passing attack, and this will be the first time that the Vikings will see Stephon Diggs since they traded him away in 2020, and they were able to use one of those first-round draft picks to draft Justin Jefferson. So this is going to be fun to watch. What has the Minnesota Vikings said about Diggs heading into this game?
They're excited to play against him. He still has a lot of friends in the locker room. There was animosity that led to the trade, but it wasn't, to my knowledge, a personal animosity. It was mostly that the Vikings shifted from a passing offense to a very much a run-first offense in the last couple years of Diggs' time here. And understandably, as a big-time receiver, he wanted to play in an offense that could maximize his skills, and that's what he got with this trade to Buffalo. And now that, obviously he has several friends still here, Adam Thielen being the big one. They've been texting all week and all season, really. And it really, since Stephon Diggs left here, they've still been pretty close, and they're planning a jersey swap afterwards. And so I know he's looking forward to it. It's easier to look forward to it when you have Justin Jefferson on your roster after you trade a guy like Diggs. There was a few months there where people wondered where that extra offense was going to go, but Justin Jefferson has slid right in and been as productive, if not more productive, than Diggs was when he was here. And so it's a lot easier to be excited to play Stephon Diggs when you have Justin Jefferson on your roster as well.
Kevin, thank you so much. We go from Minnesota to Buffalo. Alaina Getzenberg is joining us now. And probably everybody who's got Josh Allen on fantasy, people who want to gamble on this game. I mean, your information is probably the most valuable heading into this week. So as we know, the lines move 4 points in the Vikings' direction. So if you want to read into that, but I typically don't like to read the tea leaves. I like to hear from you. So what can you tell us? What's the latest with Josh Allen?
Yeah, Anita, it's been we're tired here in Buffalo. It's been quite a week here in Orchard Park, but Josh Allen did not participate in practice yesterday or today with that right elbow injury, so he has not been out there. Sean McDermott did not really want to say if he's thrown the football since that injury versus the Jets, but I saw him today walking off the field. He has a sleeve on that right arm, so there's a lot of rest involved in it, which is obviously part of why he's not out there practicing. He has been with his teammates out at practice. He's kind of acting like a coach and giving some feedback. Wide receiver Isaiah McKenzie said he even gave him some notes on one of his routes. So they're still here in a bit of wait and see mode with Josh Allen. The big question with him is they have a practice tomorrow. Whether or not he participates could be very telling, so we'll be looking to see if he is out there with his teammates.
Okay, so that leads to my next question, and that is if he could not go, Case Keenum would get the start against his former team. So how different would this offense be? How different would it look if Case Keenum gets the start this week?
That's the big question. I was actually asking at some of the locker room today, what does Case Keenum bring? What is different about this offense? And the answer is they're really hoping it looks pretty much the same. Wide receiver Isaiah McKenzie kind of made a joke that maybe Case can't quite run the way that Josh can, because really, who can? But, they're hoping it looks pretty similar. There's a lot of confidence in Case Keenum in this locker room. The Bills traded for him in the offseason from the Browns for a reason. Sean McDermott said that. He's not just here to hang around. They brought him in for moments like this. So the offense should look pretty similar. A lot of the same guys should be involved. As Kevin referenced, he's got that experience with Stephon Diggs. They were together that whole 2017 season, and of course the Minneapolis Miracle. So there's not a lot that's going to be different, but it was interesting. Left tackle Deion Dawkins did say that Case is out there and he's not trying to really be Josh. He's doing his own thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if he brings a little bit of his own wrinkle and maybe not so much of Josh's scrambling, but he's got his own talents, especially with his arm for sure.
Yeah, I talked about it earlier. Don't sleep on Case Keenum now, right? He's a 10-year vet. He's got over 60 career starts, went to the playoffs, 11-3 with Stephon Diggs in Minnesota. So I hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much for joining us on today. All right, so as always, we like to end the show with Before I Let You Go, and a big Sunday morning game in Germany. As we know, Tom Brady and the Bucs going up against Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. And Tom Brady has a prop bet out there that you could wager that he is not going to throw an interception at -150. Why am I going to play this? This is why. It's been rough sledding for Tom Brady this season, that's for sure. So where's the positive? Okay, he's averaging 40 passes a game. He has 7 straight games without an interception so far this season. The record for the most passes with no interception is held by Aaron Rodgers at 402 back in 2018. So Brady is at 373, which means he is 30 passes away from breaking Aaron Rodgers' record. And if we know anything about Tom Brady, He's all about breaking records. So this is Seattle Seahawks defense that plays a lot of zone defense. I'm telling you, this is one of my favorite bets on the slate this week, and that is Tom Brady, no interception, my friends, against the Seattle Seahawks. Anyway, good luck tonight on the Thursday night game.